Hey guys, welcome back to the Mind Body broadcast with Austin and Marty. And today we're going to do part two of the advancements within the industry episode. Last time we talked about primarily training, advancements in training and or lack thereof, and also cardio. Some things that we've learned that are beneficial, we've implemented with clients, and so on and so forth. Today we're going to dive into the other two segments of that, which would be nutrition and supplementation. So we wanted to kind of let you guys know what we've learned more about, what we maybe haven't learned anything about. I think, yeah, well, and that was kind of the case with some of the training, is that we found out that we maybe hadn't learned quite as much as we thought. A lot of the things we'd already been doing previously, just we may have not, like we said, with the science and the new literature, it's just kind of validating why we're doing something. Why does this work? Why doesn't it work? Not necessarily telling us something brand new that we didn't already know. So
Yeah,
now
go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, what I was going to say first off with these two new topics is I would probably say, well, it's hard to say. Out of the two, supplementation has advanced dramatically.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way anyone can deny that. And you kind of have the two camps that are going to say, oh, supplements are waste and they're garbage and, that don't use them, whatever, don't waste your money. And then the other camp, like if you're actually knowledgeable about supplementation, know what a lot of these things do. I mean, I feel like myself, I know quite a bit about over-the-counter supplements, and I'm still like learning about new,
Oh, yes.
what I call them, new kind of exotic herbs and different things that have literature behind them that I've never even heard of, and there's just thousands upon thousands of supplements out there.
Well, yeah,
So,
that's pretty much exactly it. And I would even say it was kind of good that we lumped training and cardio together because I would say they have the least advancements or more of we kind of confirmed what we knew, whereas the supplementation and nutrition, it has evolved significantly more than either one of those other two topics, especially even from the sense of being able to weed out which supplements are flat out crap or had no kind of evidence behind them that either marketing or we'll just say hearsay was pushing towards you need these, and then now we're being able to alter hormones in the right balance. We're able to alter cholesterol levels. We're able to alter even frigging mood and anxiety through natural means. And like the evolution of the science that's coming through, I don't even know if it's just that we're better at the scientific method now, or if we're better at just getting accurate results. But yeah, like that, and as much as the we'll say the sea of information is kind of flowing in about the benefits of some of these supplements. There's still more to learn, like you said. Like I think it could be almost a full-time job to be a supplementologist and to be able to know that like when to implement them and when not to. But I will kind of start out the whole like what has either changed, especially for myself and my knowledge and my coaching over the years, would even be looking more into the supplements that are outside of bodybuilding. I'll call them like bodybuilding supplements would be something that you would take specifically for some kind of muscle repair, muscle growth, or that, so their claims would be. But I'm talking about is proper use of things like vitamin K2, proper use of something like curcumins, talking about proper use of probiotics and enzymes like that. That's where I'm finding that I will push more of my time to research towards. Just first from the aspect of the bodybuilding stuff is not only a lot of promises and marketing, but it doesn't do as much good stuff as I find some of the vitamins and minerals will end up doing for you. Like you said, even we'll call them the exotic compounds or herbs. Like one of the ones a bigger fan of now is ashwagandha. I found that's been very helpful for some clients' anxiety and help with sleep. So just things like that are kind of what I'm seeing the advancements towards the greater good in that for that angle.
yeah, no, I totally agree. You could, like a lot of your bodybuilding supplements, you could class them as a ergogenic age.
Mm.
They help with performance recovery, stamina, whatever. Your amino acids, your pre-workouts, your things that help with cell volumizing, give you better pump in the gym, and your maybe glucose disposal agents or something. But even that you could lump into more of the health side of things. It's
Right.
like people are starting, and I think it's that people are just starting to really realize that you can't necessarily just jam a square peg into a round hole. Like, you have to get all your body systems to function optimally together. And that's where a lot of these supplements are filling the gaps, because we're getting, not only do we have better supplements, but now we also have things like more availability to like better lab work and checking things and,
Right.
and looking at things and being able to fill the gaps. Like when I talk about supplementation, if I were to look at probably 90% of my clients and their supplementation that I'm recommending to them, 90% of the supplements on there aren't ergogenic aids. They're things to correct any issues that they have, any gaps. And it's not going to be the same for everyone. I always tell people, you should really like, well, what supplements do you recommend? I'm like, well, what do you have any ailments? Do you have any digestive issues? Do you have any sleep issues? Do you have any of this or that? It's like, really, we are learning to build supplementation around need, around correcting those issues, around keeping your endocrine system in line, keeping your GI in line, keeping your cognitive function in line. Also, that's really kind of how I view supplements now. And there's literally something for anything. There's a supplement for anything. And it's not just like pixie dust stuff. I mean, there is a supplement for any goal that will actually help you.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Well, yeah, that's yeah, I like that. There is, if not, it will at least help. Like, something will be able to lower your fasting blood glucose, or it will be able to assist with your bad cholesterol levels or something like that. Like, especially in terms of the advancements I've been seeing for supplements versus medication or antibiotics. Like, that's a whole other fantastic thing I'm seeing, which there's kind of a double-edged sword there, which I'll talk about. It is. I'm not saying to go to alternative means, like as in the whole like marijuana and things being able to save people from cancer. Like, that's getting a little bit too aggressive on the side of like screw doctors and screw medication that you see out there. But I am seeing that you can do things a hell of a lot better with nutrition and with supplementation versus needing something like a statin for your cholesterol or being on any other kind of high blood pressure medication for that. Like, you can do that through more natural means with the science that's coming out now, and to be able to be accessible to the science. Websites like examine.com have a plethora of good information there, and then we have just people that are the PubMed warriors, but they're good in a sense of they are be able to interpret those studies and able to say, yeah, well, this is what we're being shown is that 600 to 900 milligrams of X supplement is working for Y condition. Try it out, and lo and behold, a lot of that is saving not only health and cost and doctor trips, but it's saving their sanity in a sense of now they don't feel doomed to be on this medication for forever and ever, which is just can be daunting enough as it is. And as I'm sure you're aware, medication has a plethora of effects on digestion, upon the GI, upon everything else, and of course the wallet as well, which doesn't help. But it's just a much better alternative means for a lot of conditions that we can kind of get rid of now.
Yeah, and I think part of that too is that the more progressive and educated crowd is realizing they're kind of flipping the script on how medicine as a whole could be practiced instead of just treating the symptoms, treat the cause type of thing, which, we know that's how it should be. Unfortunately, there are still a lot of very traditional or by the book type of whether it's a doctor or whether it's just people in general, that they have an issue, there's a medication, they take the medication, they never really investigate any further into the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, the more progressive, educated crowd is figuring out, okay, well, my thyroid is, I'm hypothyroid. And then they'll trace it back 3 or 4 steps and figure out, oh, okay, so it's because of this,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll start being able to fill in the gaps, and supplementation and nutrition for that matter are able to help us fill in those gaps. Now, I'm fortunate enough to go to have a doctor that thinks very much like that, and I've learned a lot of things from him. It's
Awesome.
kind of cool. We go in, we'll go in, and if there's something wrong, he likes his dry erase board. He'll get up there and he'll say, okay, we have this, and he'll go back through 5 conversion steps where it starts right down at the micronutrient level. What was needed for conversion here? What is lacking here? This is what you need. You need 50 micrograms of X form of this vitamin. Bam, you're good. And it just solved an issue that would take 3 medications.
Yep. It,
So it's like, it's not that easy. That obviously takes like a vast knowledge, but still, that's kind of the direction that we're heading in, which is pretty cool.
yeah, it's even the fact that there are some like of the progressive doctors out there like yours that are looking into more more better more better options than, like you said, the 3 medications, right? Like it's been coming into its own. I would say even in the last 3 years that I've been really paying attention to it, especially now people are talking much more about the digestion, which still that's probably in the top 4, top 3 things that I look for on any client's, we'll say, questionnaire, because it was just so neglected for so long, and it was okay if the food is this, if it's not, or they just throw fiber at it, as we've talked about in the digestion podcast, right? But to go then into some of the things that I've noticed that have advanced or not advanced in particular would be some, we'll call them the bodybuilding supplements, or the non-health supplements, would be the downfall of BCAAs, the downfall of of branched chain amino acids. And it was only from the standpoint, and like and you can jump in and correct me if I end up saying something wrong here, but they not only, number one, the back of the bottles on branched chain amino acids will say 0 calories. That's just not true. They don't have the exact amount of calories that protein do, but they do. They're very, very similar. So you can just kind of gauge it as it is a protein, which is 4 calories per gram. So yes, if you are having 30 grams of branched chains, you are having 120 calories. So that's one of the loophole number one, is because it's not technically a protein, so they don't feel they have to put that on the back of the label. And number two was it was significant evidence that has been coming out and came out showing that it does not assist with muscle growth and repair quite like they initially thought. I think it was about 10 years ago when Extend and those other supplements were first making their appearance on this scene. So it just, and what that meant was that the 3 branch chains, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, were just not enough. You needed all 8 essential amino acids in order to stimulate the muscle protein synthesis, and to get everything kind of going towards what they wanted the BCAAs to do by themselves. Just wasn't enough. And so then, that's not saying that that they don't have any validity, but they have validity when they're with the other 5 essential amino acids. So then my recommendations I wasn't a super big BCAA guy to start with. I enjoyed them if you had them with like if we were doing any kind of intra-workout nutrition with, let's say, off-season bodybuilder with some form of carb powder, sure. But to sacrifice, we'll say, calories in lieu of branch chains, even before this evidence came out, I was always more of a food guy anyways, because it would satiate a heck of a lot more. I would never want to give up my food in lieu of having just a drink during the workout. But then now, so if and when I do use the essential amino acids, the EAAs, it would be either for someone that would want to train fairly early in the morning, and they would be needing something that was not as heavy in the stomach, if that was for them, or then again with the off, not necessarily off season bodybuilder, but if we were going to use something of an intra workout with a carb powder, or it would be an essential amino acids now instead of the branched chain amino acids.
Yeah, definitely. That was a big one. That
Yeah.
was definitely a big one. And
Mm-hmm.
then another one that you could add to that,
Sure.
and here's an example of we pretty much circled back around to step one would be creatine.
Yep.
Um, the million different forms of creatine where they've basically taken creatine and they've attached a gazillion different molecules to it to see if it made it any better, and it never did. That's
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
tried it with that's really it. They basically tried attaching all kinds of different stuff, whether it's amino acids or different compounds, to a creatine to make it drier or wetter or absorb better or more bioavailable or whatever. And we pretty much ended back at creatine monohydrate. So that's and even then, you could say that creatine. There's still people that don't really benefit a lot from creatine because maybe they get plenty of it through food. And then obviously the other is that we don't need to load creatine. I think that everyone knows that by now. I hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was probably another big one that was debunked. And then probably I would say honestly the biggest hands down number one thing within the supplement industry
Mm-hmm.
is not is having products that are dosed properly.
Oh,
That's it.
man. Yeah, proprietary blends or incorrect dosages. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where we're at now. I mean, that is, and it's not like there are some products out there that have, that might have half proprietary blend and half disclosed ingredients or something that, and they're still good products, but in general, the whole idea of the mystery, everything being just the mystery proprietary blend, it's gone. Like your product will die in this industry because people are getting smarter and people know.
Yeah.
People now know that you can't have a pre-workout product. Yeah, I know you remember this. Remember the ultra concentrated scoops, and the scoop is like 4 grams, but it has like 15 ingredients.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, I mean, common sense is going to tell you you're getting very, very little of all the ingredients. So now, a good pre-workout might have a 15 or 20 gram massive scoop to it because you've got 5 to 8 grams of glycerol. You got freaking 8 grams of citrulline malate. You've got, so right there, you're 12 to 15, 16 grams.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this just the push towards, for supplementation industry, the push towards disclosure within the ingredients and having things properly dosed. And it's crazy because I'll get these ads and stuff that pop up on whether it's like Facebook or whatever. You know how it goes. They target the targeted ads or whatever they are, and products and companies I've never even heard of. And they're like, this is our new pre-workout. Maybe they bought a sponsored ad. And I'm like, damn, this thing's got like 5 clinically dosed ingredients in it, and it looks really good. I've never even heard of these people. And it's just popping up everywhere. So supplement industry is kind of like the coaching industry. It's pretty saturated at this point.
I love that comparison because man, is that I didn't even think about that till you just said it. Like that's wonderful. My head's spinning, Austin. Damn you and your good silk sweet words coming through this podcast. but that's exactly. And so I'm going to use that analogy a little bit more. Is that if you see one of these supplements saying, "Hey, I have XYZ in me," and you're like, "This formula looks pretty good." It's like, okay, where are they coming from? How new are they? What's kind of their backing or who's running the show there? Because as I'm sure you're very aware, there was quite some scandals going on. I think a year or 2 years ago with what the hell were they even called? It was Prime Nutrition.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when John found out, I think there was like either 8 grams of histidine or like no histidine or something like that. I remember it being histidine, whereas what was on the label was not what was inside the jug. And that's a whole other component towards what you just said, let alone saying here is what's in the jug and breaking down the proprietary blend into 1 gram of this, 2 grams of that. But then is what's inside that supplement even what they're saying on the label? So we are living in a little bit of a better time now where there are people that are grabbing these supplements off the shelf, setting them away for a third-party testing, doing NMR spectroscopy, and they're doing a bunch of other things to see what's in there. So it's for your safety. Whereas years ago, like I know that there was Gaspari was caught, and I think BSN was caught with some form of anabolic inside their No Explode and their Super Pump, which is just outlandish to even think of. But there was such little regulation back then. Like that was it for pre-workouts. No Explode and Super Pump. That was it. And it's crazy to hear you mention about the super concentrated scoops and that it's going back up. Well, it was huge scoops. They were about 20 to 30 because they either had a little bit of carbs in them. They usually had at least 5 grams of creatine in them, and then whatever else. So they went from these huge scoops beforehand down to these 4 to 6 gram scoops, which all that really did, boys and girls, was slam them full of stimulants. Because 300 milligrams of caffeine plus when it was around and allowed to be put in, but 1,3-dimethylalamine was in there, which I think you needed micrograms of dose. So all it was a gigantic punch for stimulant, but there was no, we'll say, active recovery, no what do you call it, lactic acid help, no buffering agents, no transport system like tyrosine or taurine. It was just the stimulants. And that's where they even go towards today. Is I see these pre-workouts with 300 milligrams of caffeine per scoop, not per 2 scoops, per scoop now. And that's just, holy Hannah, that's a lot, especially if you're not a avid energy drink consumer or not an avid coffee drinker. And you go and you have one of those scoops, I have thrown up from there was one, I don't know, you guys have like a Hyde down there? Like there's a Jekyll and a Hyde pre-workout, but I had Hyde and I tossed it. It was way too much on my stomach, and it just bubbled up too much. So that's kind of when they're like you said, they're kind of either toning that down or they're putting actual relatable to your actual goals supplements inside there. So yeah, they're being able to be scandal proof is something that's newer, and I'm really kind of enjoying too. So then for the next one for me, because I like this because this is kind of the heavy hitters of what people still to this day I'll see people with these supplements say that they're taking them, or they haven't, or they have taken them in the past, or they believe they still work. But I would say glutamine. Now, glutamine I have no problems with, but I have problems with what it was being marketed for. Because it was,
Right.
I remember, 10, 15 years ago, it was put up as this magic recovery, muscle builder, muscle recoverer product, which, I think there was maybe 2 to 5 studies done that it was on burn victims. And that was because they needed so much glutamine, thanks to them being inside of a fire, that okay, the supplementation showed recovery of the muscle because they were needing so much of it overturned at all times. And so, unfortunately, very unfortunately, the marketers got a hold of this information and kind of put a star next to it, said showing muscle repair, muscle growth, and lack of soreness. But that had nothing to do with healthy individuals, and that really friggin' sucked, man. When that kind of started coming to light, because it's like the supplement industry, as it is bombarded with, we'll say, false information as it is. But we didn't need something like that to kind of show that something potentially coaches have been recommending is now junk. And that just sucks for everybody all around, because glutamine wasn't cheap at the time. I know in Canada for a tub of it was around $70, and you go through that in a month, and that's a lot to go through. A lot of money to spend on something that wasn't working for what your goal was. Now, what does glutamine do from what I've understand is it can help with your gut health. It can help with digestion. It can help with keeping everything in balance inside there. I know for ulcers, it's one of or if potential ulcers are there, it can be something that's very beneficial, especially used. I think it's something like 10 gram dosages a couple times a day, which I have some people do. But in terms of it being a staple towards the muscle recovery, it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for muscle recovery, essentially, is what we found. Because we get plenty of it, but it does. I do like it from a digestive standpoint. It really helps with just healing the gut lining. for people that have like damage from acid reflux, GERD, things like that, or have
Right.
really bad SIBO, or just anything that's damaged or inflammatory. It does help, but yeah, that was quite a big discovery. I think another one was probably the protein powders have improved immensely just in terms of
Oh, yes.
quality. We did have, now you mentioned like false claims or products not having what they claim they do. The protein powders went through that too with the whole amino spiking thing, but
Yeah, that's right.
assuming the product is quality and it has in it what they say, we've gone from extremely low quality concentrates of whey concentrates, milk protein concentrates, soy concentrates, calcium caseinates, and whatever the hell else they put in there, and to some really high quality isolates that people that pretty much can't tolerate dairy can still use. So I mean, we have good products in that regard. They aren't cheap though. I think that's one of the things that we're finding out too, is that you do pay for quality when it comes to supplements. Like and I tell people that too. It's like you're not going to get the same isolate for $20 that you get for $40. And luckily, I've had a friend of mine owns a supplement company here, and he's talked to me just about a lot of the back end stuff and what stuff actually costs, and what it takes to actually turn a profit. And it's made me look and view other companies kind of differently, in the fact that, yeah, some companies that are huge, they can afford to buy in such massive quantities that their prices are a little bit cheaper. But in general, I've just seen stuff that's like, well, of course that's not what they say. It's not even possible to turn a profit. Either that or another funny one was a couple products in the way they tasted, but what they claimed was on the label in terms of how hard it is to actually flavor some of those ingredients.
Oh, yeah.
That was one that, and that was one that I never really thought of, but he goes, no, man. He goes, some of this shit is just repulsive.
Yep.
And you cannot make it taste like that.
Well, if you ever tried to chug down, like, just by itself, Pepto Pro or hydrolyzed casein, like, by itself, oh my Lord, that stuff is rancid.
Oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
It's awful. And there's a lot of ingredients like that. So, yeah, like I said, so quality of products, just our knowledge on products. You mentioned examine.com. Anyone that's interested in supplements, that's a really awesome reference for anyone. They're not affiliated with anyone, so you get non-biased information. It's just kind of a compilation of everything all in one place. So I typically send a lot of people there. I mean, there's a lot of, like, we could go on about individual ingredients. We could do segments on heart health and digestion and
for sure,
cognitive function, all those things. But
I just kind of wanted to make sure that there was, like, where the advancements were, or lack thereof, right? That's like, because we could definitely talk about, like, how now we, like, there is brand new stuff out there going on there, and we'll probably do that in the future. We'll pick out some of the ones for either, like, we'll do something like stress busting episode, or we'll do like a muscle repair episode, things like that. But yeah, I really wanted to mention the creatine, the BCAAs, and the glutamine, just because those are the three ones that I still see so prominently people buying and purchasing for the wrong reasons. Whereas, like, I want to see someone buy ashwagandha for the wrong reason. Like, that would be awesome. Like, wow, you've actually heard of ashwagandha? That's great, perfect. So, and that would be, we're moving towards things more that work or what don't, right? But yeah, for sure. So we could just kind of cruise into some of the stuff for nutrition then, which I'll start out with saying that kind of what I touched on at the last episode briefly was the meal timing thing, right? That, like, it was the live and die by the sword. If you didn't eat every 2 to 3, or it all depended on who you talk to, really, was eat every 2 to 3 hours, eat every 2.5 to 3.5 hours, and the whole stoke the metabolic furnace. That was do you know who came up with that exact quote? Do we know where that came from, or is that just something that was passed around?
I honestly have no idea where that originated from.
Yeah.
I don't even know. You know what? I'd be really curious to talk to some people that maybe competed in like the 70s and 80s and see if that was still the mentality there, or if
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
something that was created like in the 90s, or I have no idea.
Yeah,
Truthfully,
yeah.
no idea.
Because that was like, it was one of those things that was never really argued. It was like a, I think I even maybe said that in the last episode, but it was one of the, was that a commandment, was as in thou shalt must eat every 2 to 3 hours or your metabolism will slow down. But I won't go into it fully again. But that was just proven to be busted. Personal preference reigns supreme. But I'm not saying that that the that the timing of nutrients and everything else is still a bust, because that's just not true. But if you are having like evenly split meals, or you're not robbing yourself of protein a whole day, or something like that, then you can pick if you want to have 3 meals versus 4 versus 5 versus 6, as long as they're not obnoxiously large. Or even if they are, it just means you're going to spend more time sitting down there and having take more time to digest. You might feel a little bit uncomfortable because you are full. But yeah, that was no, your progress will not alter just because you now are not eating every 2 to 3 hours. Your body is smarter than that. It will be okay. You will not lose muscle. And oh my gosh, is that something that I still hear? Is that, oh well, what will I lose muscle if I wait that 4 hours? Like, oh no, and like, and you will not, you will do more damage in terms of if you psychologically are worried about not eating that meal on time, then the physical damage of you not eating on time will ever do. That worry and that panic will set in, and that will be more catabolic than the actual lack of food could ever dream of being.
Oh yeah, I mean, heck, half the time I'm like, hey, what meal frequency stresses you out the least?
That's a
Like,
great question, man. Yeah.
really, I mean, really, that's what it boils down to. But the way I look at it, and a lot of the and I know I'm not obviously not the only one. I'm sure you view it the same. A lot of other coaches view it the same too. Is there's kind of like that hierarchy of needs and hierarchy of priorities now, and people realize, okay, we have thermodynamics, we have calories in and calories out. That's first.
Mm-hmm.
Have you mastered that?
Mm-hmm.
Second, have you mastered macronutrients? Have
Mm-hmm.
you mastered protein, carbs, and fat? And prioritizing, figuring out what do you metabolize the best? What do you digest the best? What makes you feel the best? And then now we have meal timing and meal frequency would probably be number 3 in there somewhere. And then you can slide in like food selection in there somewhere too, in terms of like what food you're actually filling it in with, because
Mm-hmm.
you want to eat things that make you feel and perform good. But yeah, there's really that just kind of pyramid there of
Mm-hmm.
needs and figuring out what works for you. I think there has been a lot of studies on in terms of like protein synthesis and how much protein can you digest in a meal, and
Oh
how
yes, right.
yeah. So we have that one, and then we also have, well, how often do you need to eat for maximal muscle protein synthesis? And then I think really it seems like most of the researchers in that category kind of fall in the you should probably, we're not 100% sure, but you should probably eat at least 3 times a day. That
Yeah.
they're kind of like in that realm there. But they're also going to tell you it's absolutely not necessary to eat every 2 hours to maximally stimulate muscle protein synthesis. It's not. And frankly, I this always gets me. It's always kind of like this kind of satisfying when I'll work with a lot bigger guy, like say it's a heavyweight or super heavyweight competitor, and they have to put down some food, and they are used to eating 7-8 meals a day, and it's stressful. It's a pain in the ass to prepare it all. Their digestion's not really good, and the reason that happens is because all the damn meals overlap.
Mm-hmm.
They're not they're not hungry. So when I can get a big guy, to go down to 5 meals a day, even, I have some that might do 4, but 5 meals seems to be a sweet spot for the people that really need to put down a good amount of food. Yeah, they're like, holy crap, I'm actually hungry for my next meal now. And
Mm.
yeah, it's like, oh, I'm looking forward to eating, and you change around the food sources. You take out all the freaking super duper complex foods, or not all of them, but you mix in some foods that digest a little bit easier and quicker. And now they're eating less meals, the same amount of calories, and some quote unquote non bodybuilding foods. Their body looks better, their digestion's better, they're not as inflamed, they feel better, their training's better. It's like, it's in 15 years ago, there's no way, like, you would have thrown a plan like that at someone and said, hey, this is going to make you feel and look better. They would have laughed at you.
Oh, big
You know,
time. Yep.
yeah, but it's coming around.
Yeah,
It's slowly coming.
it is, right. And like, even with we'll call the advancements here is it's an advancement and it's not an advancement. It's the if it fits your macros or macro dieting or whatever, right? But if you were to look at what it was supposed to be, which I think the term now is called flexible dieting, which I hope that it's I wish there was, let's put it this way, I hope and I wish that there is or was a better standard definition for what that meant. And that basically meant that if, like you said, if you were choking down oatmeal and it was either giving you issues or not, that you could sub that out for something of equivocal macronutrient value and hopefully micronutrient value, but as opposed to just shoving whatever the heck fit the macros inside of your mouth and inside of your system, though, right? But that would be an advancement, was that you could just, it was part of the if it fits your macros or the macro dieting, was that you didn't have to have the timing be bang on. That was my understanding with it too. Which thank gosh that kind of came along, because then people stopped associated, we'll say, hard dieting or competition dieting with just tilapia and green beans, and that's kind of it. Is that, no, okay, fruit wasn't this demon article for dieting, which you'll still see that too. Is that like, oh, fruit, you can't have any fruit, it's awful for you. I'm like, well, why? Outside of it being something that will cause you some digestive issues, if you're, say, allergic to something or have a sensitivity, then okay, but it's not as demonized as it was in the past. And to say too about how you said the meals were overlapping, I remember there was talk of even people slugging down BCAAs in between meals and things like this to try to keep the keep the amino acid pool going and all this kind of fun stuff. And, and then the research came out and it showed that they actually will impede digestion, because it will, again, it's like constantly keeping something in the stomach. There's no gastric emptying, there's no gastric clearing, which like you said, will leave the person never not really stopping eating, which that can you want to start hating something, do it all the time, every day, all day. Geez, like, as much as I enjoyed playing video games back in the day, I don't think I would allow, if I was especially forced to play that video game all day, every day, I don't know if I would have lasted. So give yourself time to, yeah, like you said, get hungry is one of the much bigger safeties we have now, because that you can say that. And man, did I love that when you said that you would get, like, yeah, thrown on a fire. If you said, no, it has to be not, you don't have to have it set at this time, because I know up here in Canada, when I first started tinkering around with the macronutrient dieting, and the even just having like a substitution sheet was like, what are you doing? You can't do that. What do you mean? It's like, and then even some of the, we'll call them return competitors or people that had competed before, were saying, what do you mean I can eat something more than white fish? It's like, well, yes. It's like or they remember the what is it? Did tilapia thins the skin? Was it tilapia that was supposedly thinning the skin? So yeah, that just a lot of that stuff now is just going away, in a good sense, because we do have the science there. And that one, if anyone's laughing, going, yeah, what happened? I did hear that tilapia thins the skin. It doesn't thin the skin. It's just a straight up protein, very easily digested by many protein source. That's all it was. Because versus, let's say, chicken, which might have some more fat to it, so then they would believe that the skin would get thinner. But there's no diuretic. I can't even say this without laughing, Austin. There's no diuretic properties to friggin' tilapia. Oh man, but that one's still there. That might be my favorite tilapia thins of skin. That might be my favorite myth ever. So there's an advancement. We do know now that the local indigenous tilapia is not going around and finning other fish's skin prematurely. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So food, yeah, I mean, food selection just in general, I think,
yeah.
and I would even
You still there, buddy?
sensitivities to things.
Oh,
Not
Austin, I lost you there for about a good 20 seconds.
I'm here. You
No,
have me?
no, I do have you now, but yeah, like it was you went quiet for about 20 right as soon as I stopped talking and you said, "Yeah, food selection." So we'll kind of get you to start from there again. I don't know what happened. Must have just blipped for a minute there.
We're good. Okay. Yeah. Food. So in terms of food selection, I think now you could even argue that it's good to vary your foods, not only from the standpoint of, well, you get to eat some different stuff. Some people really don't care. They just eat the same things and
Hmm.
that's fine. But we know that you can form sensitivities to, intolerances to things if you eat them repetitively for months and months on end. And we also know that you get a better variety of micronutrients if you eat
Hmm.
food. So, I mean, heck, not only is it not necessary to eat the same exact thing, but it's maybe not the best way. I don't like to use the word best because it's definitely doable. People have done it for years. There are definitely other ways to do things. And there was a couple other little things that you mentioned in there that I was going to kind of piggyback off of was on the meal frequency. I posted about this at some point and talked about hunger hormones. So ghrelin being one of your primary hunger hormones and how it actually, because I think this came about with talking about fasting,
Probably.
but
Yep.
yeah, how it actually adapts to your hunger patterns. So that's one of the biggest things that people are always freak out about. And we probably talked about this in the meal timing episode. I may have, but it's like, well, if I'm used to eating 6 meals, or we'll go high, we'll go 7 or 8 meals. If I eat five, I'm going to be really hungry, and so hungry that I'm uncomfortable type of hungry. And yeah, there might be a day or two in there where your hunger patterns adapt, but then you find out you're hungry at pretty much the same time every day because that's what your ghrelin adapts to, and
Yep.
it's like your sleep patterns. It's your circadian rhythm of hunger.
Hmm.
That's exactly what it is. So your body will adapt, and I think that was a good segue into uh, maybe touching on the whole fasting thing a little bit. We don't have to go into that whole subject because that's kind of its own subject. But
Sure.
you said something about amino acids between meals and just constantly being in that fed state, and we're finding out through, I guess you could call it anti-aging research, or whatever you want to call it.
Life extension research, like anti-aging, both. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we're finding out that it's not necessarily the best thing to be quote unquote anabolic all the time and be in a fed state all the time. Not only from a health perspective in terms of just aging you quicker and contributing to disease, but also from the perspective of something like insulin sensitivity. That's one
Oh
thing.
yes.
Yeah, I mean that's been a big one here in the past several years that people are finding out. Well, hey, if I'm more insulin sensitive, then I'm going to partition nutrients better, and I'm going to perform better, and I'm going to get better results. So we've found the benefits of not being in a fed state all the time, doing things like fasting, whether it's, and that's not just saying you got to do intermittent fasting. That's saying just periodically fasting when it might be beneficial to reset your digestion and let your blood sugar come down a little bit. You don't always have to be forcing your body to digest foods and forcing your digestive system to work. There's people that I work with, and not just that I work with, but just in general, that they get to that really, really bogged down state, and maybe they do a 16-hour or even a 24-hour fast once a month or once a week even. They're like, man, I feel really good. after I'm done. I got hungry. I got hungry. I got a little foggy in the middle, but I felt really good by the end. And that's because your body isn't being forced to digest food. You actually have some blood supply to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so, and of course, if you were in the era of the 6 to 8 meals a day, every 2 hour crowd, and you mentioned fasting, you would have been burned on the cross. You absolutely couldn't do that. And it's hilarious because fasting came about and people, just like flexible dieting, people shunned it. And now you've got IFBB pros that carry around 300 pounds of muscle talking about how they use fasting to improve their results. It's like, oh, so you're not going to shrivel up and die if you fast.
Yep.
It's so funny. It's like, dude, I've been saying this for years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not 300 pounds, so I guess my opinion on muscle loss isn't valid.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
It's at least now I'm not in the crowd where people are like, oh, you can't listen to the 140-pound guy behind his computer. So
Right.
At least I'm not that anymore.
Yes.
But yeah, it's crazy. It takes some time for stuff to catch up. But man, nutrition has freaking done a 180.
Yep.
It seems like.
Yep. No. Not only that, but like there's something. I believe that if you have the right coach, or even if you don't, you have the right, we'll say, Google skills or something, you are so more apt. Or like what a time to be alive is what I'll say. Is we're so much more apt to find a nutrition strategy that will work for you. In terms of if you want to intermittent fast for whatever time period of your day and you only want to have 3 meals, or if you want to have 2, or if you want to have 4, you can do that. Whereas before it was, if you're not eating this 2 to 3 hours with this much, with this amount, and these select foods, you're doomed. And that was so soul crushing for so many people because I barely wanted to do that for that long. Right? Like it's just not plausible for life. And then you were castrated, like you said, or blown off the torch if you did something other than that, either as a competitor or as a coach recommending it. Right? Like it was just not what we were heading towards. Then to touch on too, as you said about how the food sensitivities, if you eat the same thing all the time, it was and I've already referenced Scott in the last podcast, but I'll say him again. Scott Abels was way ahead of everyone on that one too, about eclectic dieting, which is just basically rotate your vegetables, rotate your meats, rotate your carbs, just so you will get that broad span of micronutrients. Because sure, you can, like you said, eat the same things, especially for physical alterations or like cosmetics, we'll call them. But if you are losing out on some micronutrients, things will eventually start to go awry. Especially, we'll say electrolytes. I know if magnesium's gone, if calcium's gone, things like that, you will then the physical will start taking a hit thanks to the micronutrients not being there. So rotating your foods, and then too, something to be careful for there is if you're hearing this, go, I should rotate my foods, is that if you haven't seen something, let's say a steak, you haven't seen a steak in your diet in 2, 3, 4 months, and you have a steak and all of a sudden you have some digestion issues, that's okay, because your body has not seen that food in a while, and it probably has lost the enzymes for it or forgotten them at this moment. So give it some time. Give it up a good week or 2 of having it, not at every single meal, but having it, we'll say, once every day or once every 2 days, just because your body will take some time to get those enzymes back. And also too, like you said about if you eat the same thing every day too, it can be screwy with the gut microbiota as well, which is to go back into supplementation is why I recommend Garden of Life's Primal Defense probiotic, or you can pick any fantastic probiotic, but that's been my go-to now for I think at least 6 years, just because because no probiotics are not enzymes, but it will help get the bacteria in there that will help out the enzymes in a sense, be able to kind of do their job and help your gut flora be more optimal in that regard. Because yeah, like the rotation of foods can not only keep your diet sanity going in terms of your brain's not going, oh my god, I have to eat white rice at every single meal, or oh my god, it's only the thin skinning tilapia at every meal. But you will just be so much more apt to know that you can choose these foods, and then it's kind of the double whammy. You get the micronutrients and you get the health benefits along with the psychological benefits.
Something that I was going to say, and you mentioned sustainability. In this, I mean, this is probably primarily for the nutrition part of this discussion, but what this has done, and from the advancements in terms of what we've learned about meal frequency and timing and all that jazz and flexible dieting, is people talk about social media, how social media has opened up this whole, to this whole new group of people that probably wouldn't have done this otherwise, this lifestyle, which I totally agree with. But I also think that the fact that we know you don't have to eat every 2 hours has also opened up to a lot of people that are like, wait a second, I can do this. And,
right.
And it's cool. Like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of the people that probably are just doing something that's trendy, or whatever. But at the same time, it is great that these advancements have allowed a lot more people to live a lifestyle that they never would have even imagined living before. It's kind of cool because I'll run into people randomly that maybe it's in public. I don't go in public a lot, but occasionally, and they'll comment. A common one would be like, I have to go to a coffee shop or something, maybe use the Wi-Fi or something, and I have a tank top on or whatever, and that sparks a conversation. That's, hey,
of course.
They ask a question, and then they start talking. I'm like, oh wow, this person kind of knows. They know what's going on. Like they say, I've been counting my macros. I'm getting these macronutrients. I'm eating this much a day. I'm training with I'm training. I've got this much volume and this and that. I'm like, wow. I mean, I get those people that kind of catch me off guard sometimes. Like, okay, you got my attention. Like, this is probably actually a legitimate question. You're not asking me how much I bench,
right?
Type of thing. But it's cool because you have Google, like you said, you have the internet, you have social media. I think it really comes down now, like where we're at now with nutrition, supplementation, training, just all of it is just the ability to interpret good information and bad information. That's really where we're at this point. It's just figuring out what's right, what's wrong, how do I use it, what should I do, what shouldn't I do. But I just thought I had that discussion with someone else the other day that aside from social media, just the fact that we know a lot more about sustainability and the lifestyle has allowed so many more people to better themselves. And it's even allowed a lot of people that probably would have gotten really sick of competing, that probably are really good competitors. They would have just said, to hell with this. I don't like this lifestyle anymore or whatever.
Right.
And they're still competing and getting better because they found a better way.
Yeah. No, it's exactly it, right? Like it's, because I don't think I've got anything to add to that. That was exactly it, right? But just pretty much perfect. And then the advancements that had along with the people that are now knowing what a macronutrient is the apps. The apps are coming out that are somewhat helpful, at least for the most part. Like if you were to go download them, of course, the most popular one, at least in Canada that I know of, is MyFitnessPal. If you were to go download MyFitnessPal and kind of plug in what you're currently eating, that will at least give you some information about where you're at. Whereas before, you would have to like physically write down either with a notepad or on your computer or on an actual heaven forbid you use a pen and a piece of paper, right? And write down, and then go to a website, if it was even available, and to find out what the macronutrients are, whatever, which that's an endless amount more work than you got to write down, okay, what's the chicken, what's the this, put it into a spreadsheet. But now you can just plug that into an app and it will say, here is what you're doing wrong. And here's what you're doing good, of course, too. But for the most part, like, that information was never around. Like, even, like, I think, what would you say MyFitnessPal would be? 5 years old, 6 years old, maybe? And so, yeah, around there. It might have been out a little bit before that, but it just, in terms of it being widespread usage, like you said, that conversation, that wouldn't have happened 10 years ago, Austin. You know that. That being the coffee shop, for like someone coming up to you, no. Like, in terms of them being able to know, here I've been counting my macros, like, especially in Canada, no, that would have never happened. It's happening more, which is so cool, because then I know this is a little bit off topic, but I like it because then I'm getting applications for clients that are more educated, and damn, is that cool? Because now I'm like, okay, cool. We don't need to go through what is a carb. We can go into, okay, what carbs work for you. You know what I mean? It's just getting so much more fun from that way too. And then it's giving us as coaches a heck of a lot more of a job towards sifting through the information for them, as opposed to having to start from the ground up, right? Like, it's just, I don't know. It's becoming a heck of a lot more of a health informed society, in terms of, like, even though, yes, there's a bunch of BS documentaries out there, like What the Health, that go into, what is it, eggs are just as bad as smoking. Like, come on, kids, really? So that's where, like you said, the information sifting through is getting to be junky. I'll say this: the advancements in the nutrition documentary realm have been awful. Like, any of the popular ones that you can probably see easily, in terms of What the Health, Super Size Me was a funny one too. Fathead was a funny one too. They all have kind of nuggets of decent information, but for the most part, they either have an agenda, they're either pushing ketogenic, they're pushing vegetarian, they're pushing vegan, they're pushing something big sugar, or they're very anti-carbohydrate, which is just flat out funny. So I would just be careful if I had to say something towards the lack of advancement in the industry, is just be careful where you're getting the sourcing from. As we talked about, I think it was even in my opening in the last episode, was just be careful what groups you jump into, and that you can find either a study or a tribe of people, a group of people that will tell you what you're doing is right. If you're wanting to do keto for weight gain, for muscle gain, and you find a bunch of groups that say yay, you're going to stick with those groups, especially if you're going to be trying out something of personal preference, right? But that would be an advancement and a non-advancement too. Is just, yeah, you said it too, the plethora, or the overwhelming wealth amount of info out there, whether it's correct or not.
I was going to throw in a little joke in there. It might be too late now, but so probably not going to be funny. But anyhow, you mentioned the coffee shop conversation. I know nobody would have asked me 10 years ago, because I was too small to know that.
Oh, perfect.
For anyone to know that I lifted at all. So no, they would not. They wouldn't have asked.
Oh man, yeah, and that
they would have had.
You know what? And unfortunately, here I will say this: this is a non-advancement in the industry, and it's not to say, because, like, and I don't know if you've heard this debate too, is does your coach need to be in shape perpetually, or need to be huge to know what it's like to get huge? There's obvious people that come to mind, but like, do they need to be in great shape to know what they're talking about for fitness and nutrition? But unfortunately, I've seen, we'll say, the non-advancement of the industry is that people that are kind of, we'll call them gym goers, but now all of a sudden they're positioning themselves as experts. And that would be something to really take a look at. It's almost just like the supplement industry there, like how we talked about with the coaches or whatever, is that if they don't have a lot of clout behind them in terms of transformations, they don't have we'll say clients that past and current clients you can talk to about results, about what's their education and things like that, because there is no such thing as a rate my online coach. I know that some of the guys tried to start up ratemyprepcoach.com, but there's still nothing great to be able to sift through and find ratemycoach.com, which would be kind of hilarious. Like the Rate My MD is a wonderful resource for anyone that's wanting to use that, but yeah, the advancement wouldn't be there in terms of people that are just trying to, we'll say, not even teach macros, but they're kind of taking money without kind of any value behind it. There's no sauce on the steak in a sense, right? So that would be, there is an evolution that now you can find good coaches easier, but also you can find, we'll say, inappropriate coaches easier as well. So it's just another thing to kind of, as we went, I think we went over in a how to be a good client or what looking for in a coach episode, is just be more wary of that. Just be more wary of the information along with the coaching, so that you don't kind of, and now you can kind of see too from this episode and the last episode, if they're recommending glutamine for your sore knees, you might want to go, I wonder if my coach is keeping up to date on the current events of the nutrition and fitness world.
Yeah, that goes back to the visibility thing. It's really easy to be visible. Unfortunately, some people just know they're way better at marketing than they are at actually helping anyone. So,
yeah,
you kind of
advancements in marketing is right. You got it.
Yeah, but but at the same time, you need to be educated as a consumer, and that goes with, I guess that's why we're here, right?
Literally exactly why we're here. You got it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is not only a shameless plug for Marty and I, but we genuinely want to try to give you a objective, non-bullshit, non-marketed opinion on the status of our industry.
Yep, you got it. Just because one of the things that drives me for this is I wish that there was people like us back when I was 15. I really do. I wish that I could have found like a great podcast, great Facebook groups or anything like that. Because 15 for me again would be 18 years ago. So I wish I had that stuff as opposed to just, I won't necessarily say propaganda of fitness magazines, but it was the only resource out there. So no, you got it. This is the undaunting way to go about it, is find out the good information. And like you said, we're not trying to solicit here by any means, but we're saying take this information and run with it, because you'll find it will pan out for sure. You have anything else to add in there, my man?
No, not really. I think like I said, we can go into individual segments like we do in other episodes, but as a broad overview, I think we pretty much nailed it.
Yeah, no, me too. I agree. So then from Austin and Marty here at the Mind Body Broadcast, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.